Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of From Page to Stage. Now, I have with me today a lovely lady from Devon in the UK, Sandra Bellamy. Now, Sandra and I met through, roundabout type people, and it turns out that we both know our same coach, and there are also other people that we have in common. The joys of actually being online. So, Sandra, I'm going to ask you, give us a little bit of a clue as to who you are and how you got to be where you are today. Over to you.
Okay, so in my life at the moment, I specialize in asexuality, which is a sexual orientation that is lack of sexual attraction. And I have a show called Asexualise My Asexual Life, which is a YouTube show that's had over 740,000 views. Yeah, it's amazing. And asexuality is a sexual orientation that's based on the lack of sexual attraction, and I'm asexual. So what that means is I get attracted to guys romantically and asexually, but not sexually. So I don't get the need, urge, or want for partnered sexual intercourse. And so on my channel, I help other asexuals with love, life, confidence, dating, relationships, self-care, self-love. And I use my own life experience and journey of life, my asexual life, to help other people in their asexual journey. So it's really useful because they can see asexuality in real life context rather than just textbook definitions of it.
Yeah.
So I've been tracking, people have been tracking my life since like 2015 when I started the channel.
Okay.
So but 2018 is when I started doing live streams regularly on there. So I do like a late night live stream and I just pick a topic that I want to talk about and then ad lib on that topic using my own experience.
So in effect, it's like a bit of a podcast for,
Yes.
but not structured. And so this is me, this is what I want to talk about tonight, and off you go.
Yeah, I call it a chat show.
Okay, yeah. Because you're inviting people on to talk.
No, so I'm the speaker and I talk, but there's chat at the side,
Right.
in YouTube they have chat,
Yeah.
so anyone can come in chat and ask me questions. So I've got to manage talking to camera. I've got to manage what I'm talking about and remember what I'm talking about. And I've also got to manage the chat screen down the right-hand side myself. So I've got to interact with the people in chat and say, oh, hi, so-and-so in chat. And I'll read out their question and then answer their question. But obviously you can get some trolls sometimes. So you've got to be aware of that. And you've also got to get rid of that if they come on as well. So it takes a lot of coordination.
Yes.
To make sure that you're speaking as clear as possible whilst also maintaining the chat yourself as well, because I don't have a moderator anymore, I do it all myself.
Okay. Wow. Ooh, multitasking to the nth degree. That's amazing. Okay. So that's where you're at the moment. Now, can I ask you, when did you make the decision about asexuality?
Oh, this is a really interesting thing. It's really difficult. So in 2014, I went to see a counsellor and I told her that I was worried because I felt I couldn't do dating anymore because the expectation of sex at the end of the night from a heterosexual guy at the end of a date was making me almost wet myself, and I was getting so anxious and nervous about it. And I realized that I love kissing and romance, but I don't want the sex.
Right.
And I was really worried because I wanted a relationship, a romantic relationship with kissing and cuddling, but without the sex. And I thought I'm never going to get one. And I didn't know what to do about it. So I went to the counsellor to get some help, thinking that I would get some empathy and some insight that would be in my favor. And it was a really tough time for me, because she said to me that I would have to have sex in order to keep a good guy. And I was just like absolutely mortified because I thought the guy can't be any good for me if he wants me to do something that I don't want to do.
Yes.
And to my mind, it was like giving a guy a license to rape me. It's basically saying as well that you can't get love unless genitalia and sex is involved.
Yeah.
And so you've got to do this in order to get love. And that's such a damaging message to like
Yes.
me and society. And so I went home and Googled I love kissing, but not sex. And that's when I came across asexuality and asexuality.org, which is the biggest online forum for asexuals. And then
Right.
I saw, like, in the forum, there was other people that wanted a romantic relationship without sex. And I'm like, oh my God. I
You're not
honestly thought,
alone.
yeah, I honestly thought I was the only person in the world, planet, and universe that felt the way I did. I thought I was literally the person, and that I was never going to find someone. There was never going to be anyone like me. And then, yeah, I found all these thousands of people on there. It's just incredible. Relief as well when you see
Yes.
I don't have to have sex to get love anymore. There are people that want love without sex.
Oh,
So yeah,
great. Well, thanks for filling us in, because I mean, I'm sure some of the audience are going to go, what's that about then? How does that work? So thank you for, again, giving us a real life, not a definition out there, the sort of textbook stuff, but actually what it means for you as a person. Lovely, thank you. So that's, you're now in the space of looking at, how can I make this normal for other people? Giving some advice, giving strategies and all sorts of things on that front. So I'm going to come on to that in a minute, but
yeah, I do.
Quick backtrack. Go on. What came
Oh,
first for you? Because I mean, you're a published author 2 or 3 different times
yeah,
over with different topics, but I know that
yeah,
now you want to really focus on this topic because it's so near and dear to your heart.
yeah.
What prompted you to start writing? And by writing, I mean any form of writing.
Okay, so I was always told, like, by my parents that at school I was really good at writing. And
Okay.
that was one of the things that my teachers said, even in primary school, Sandra's very good at writing her own stories. And
Mm-hmm.
then I went to college and I studied media studies and English literature.
Right.
And I got, for actually my own pieces, my own stories, I got A's. But when it came to analysing other people's stuff, I got lower grades. So overall, I got a lower grade because I had to analyse prose, which we hadn't even really covered.
Mm.
And when I was at school as well, even going back before college, there was a parents' evening, and there was this, like, paragraph, and the teacher said, especially for my age, this is perfectly punctuated, like with the commas and everything. And it's like outstanding, especially for someone of my young age. And I also did Of Mice and Men, I studied at school.
Mm-hmm.
And with Of Mice and Men, one of the tasks they gave us to do, if you wanted to do that, was to actually do another chapter of that story.
Oh,
Like, say,
really?
yeah, so say you finish the book and say you were the author and writing the next chapter, what would that be? And I got, like, I think it was an A+ for that. So I was always really good at
Mm.
writing my own stuff. And then
Mm.
I was made redundant in 2009.
Okay.
And so that was from a job that I really loved, a management job. And in total, I've been redundant 3 times in my life. So I think that was, yeah, the second time. And so
Mm.
I was really blaming myself, actually, which was stupid because the host store closed down. I was a concession manager. So my
Okay.
whole department was going because the whole host store was shutting down. There was nowhere to go to. But I
Mm.
blamed myself. And it was very difficult time for me emotionally, because I've been in the job, I think, about 3 years, and I really loved it. And I was like, what am I going to be doing now? And I then understood, though, in that period of time when I was redundant, that I was born to actually be a writer. So I did hospital radio presenting for years,
Oh,
which not
did
many people
you?
know about. Yeah.
Right.
And I thought I was all set to, like, work in radio, like that's where I was heading. But then with writing, it took over as my passion, my joy. And I just knew then in 2009 that 100% I'm born to write, and that I can use my skills and experience and knowledge of both being a manager, recruiting people, and also being made redundant and losing job, to give a really good book, which was called Breakthrough the
Very
Barriers of
balanced.
Redundancy. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
So that's my first ever book. It took me 2.5 years to write. It's called Breakthrough the Barriers of Redundancy to get back into work, an A to Z how-to guide. And so I've combined 2 genres, like an A to Z guide with a how-to book. So I
Mm.
like mixing genres up, combining a couple, not, it's more interesting. And it
Mm.
is a really good book. It's got good reviews, and it literally has, like, cover letters and CV templates at the back, which are
Mm.
invaluable, because when I was looking for work, I got like 75% interview rate. So for every 4 jobs, 3 of them I would get an interview for. I'm really good
great.
at,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really good at doing that. So so that
So
was my first.
what I'm hearing from you then is that the speaking and the writing kind of came in at the same time, but now you're more on the writing. Well, are you though? Because you've got this regular show that you do.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
you're doing them both in tandem, aren't you? You're both a writer and a speaker.
yeah,
You know?
writing for me, I can't live without. Like so writing for me is not just a hobby or a profession. Writing for me is my sole purpose. It's just a little bit more of my purpose than asexuality. It's followed very closely by asexuality. So writing is my first
Mhm.
sole purpose. And if I don't write, I actually get physically poorly because
Oh,
it's like, yeah, it's like I become more distant from myself and I become really miserable and I get very poorly if I'm, because it's my life purpose, and if I don't do it I get very sick. And
okay.
so I have to like do it, and it's more important to me to write books and get them out regardless of what money I make, because I have to
You've
get
got that
X amount of,
compulsion.
yeah,
It's
it's
got to come
like,
out.
well, I'm very spiritual, and I can tell that when I'm no longer here on planet Earth, that I need to have X amount of books out so that I save and change lives in the future as my legacy when I'm gone. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that I see all these books that I have to write, but they're my books, and I have to get them all out of all the experience I've learned to help people. Like this Asexual Perspectives book, which I know we're going to come on to in a
Oh
minute.
yes, please show, please show.
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is a bestseller. This is, oh, we're going to talk about this in a minute, but this was the first book I ever wrote for Asexuals, published in 2017, but it was a bestseller last year in 2023. So just goes to show you that you can write a book and still, yeah,
I'm going
years
to
later.
ask you about that for a second. So you published in 2017 and it hit bestseller last year. In
Yeah.
that time in between, were you doing a lot of speaking about it? Talking to people, getting on podcasts, doing your own podcast, doing your show?
Yes. So in terms of asexuality, I went from starting the show I do in 2015,
Mm-hmm.
and then 2018 I started doing a regular live stream. So I published Asexual Perspectives book in 2017, and then in 2018 I started doing live streams because I started something called Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month to go with the book,
Right.
which is really good advice for your listeners. Is I created it so that I could quote from my own book. So for the
Mm-hmm.
whole of July every year, I do Asexual Perspectives Awareness Month, and I quote from my book every single day. And in 2018, I was doing it as a live stream. That's what started me doing live stream, because you can increase sales like that. So you
Yes.
tell part of these are 47 asexual stories.
Yep.
So I'm saying part of people's stories, which are told through interview questions and answers
Mm-hmm.
about love life and sex from an asexual point of view.
So
Because of what,
the point that I'm getting at is that
yeah.
you were doing an awful lot of speaking about the topic,
Yes,
which
I was a
supported
speaker.
the book.
Yeah, I was a speaker at the UK Asexuality Conference as well in 2018 in
Yes.
London.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did the channel. 2015 started the channel. Then Asexual Perspectives took me a year to write, so it came out in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
But I started at the beginning. I think at the beginning of 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2017 was when I published it. 2018, I was a speaker at the UK Asexuality Conference, and I launched something called Asexualise Academy, which
Yeah.
is online training courses for asexuals. So
Yeah.
I've got
So
free
the point I'm making, Sandra, is that you can have a book,
yeah.
and when you get out and talk about your book a lot more, then it doesn't matter when you launched. You're building credibility, you're building your
Yeah.
audience, you're building your fan base, if you will. You're getting
Yeah.
in front of more people, and inevitably you're getting more sales. I mean, I
Yeah.
know that sales are not your prime motive. You're wanting
Yeah.
to get the message out there, but the point is that your legacy has improved. The impact that you're making with your book has improved because you're speaking about it.
Yeah, I've gone on a number of podcasts over the years.
Mm.
But obviously that, when I'm talking all the time, I mention my books a lot on my YouTube channel. I think that actually is my biggest way of selling my book is through my YouTube show, because I mention it usually often at the beginning, actually, which some people don't necessarily think that's a good thing. Some people mention stuff at the end, but you've got to kind of capture their attention at the beginning of the video and let them know that you've got a book. And I find that's the most effective. When I'm talking about it on my channel, sales go up. When I don't talk about it, or have a few episodes or a couple of weeks where I don't mention it much, they go down. So it's very you know, you can see the difference in sales depending on when I talk about it or not. But yeah, so I you know, the talking on the YouTube show allows me then to do the books, which is, I got a new book coming out soon, and that's to do with my channel as well.
Okay, we will talk about that in a very short while. So the point that I'm making here is that of our listeners, a number of them are what I call reluctant speakers. They've poured their heart and soul into writing, particularly as a chapter in a multi-author book. And they're often saying, look, this is my origin story. This is how I decided there's a void in the world. I've gone through some pretty crappy stuff. I've discovered a solution. And this is my story to back up where I've come from. A bit like yourself, when you've got a story in there. And as we both know, stories are so much more powerful than stats.
Yeah,
so definitely. With that in mind, that's been a healing experience in and of itself. But then when you say, you know, you got to talk about this, don't you?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, you mean speak out loud those words that I wrote down and that took me such an effort to do?
You've got
to. This is where the podcast From Page to Stage comes in, because it's a one-on-one conversation. And most people will be able to talk one-on-one. And then I go, okay, now let's bring in the audience as well. So we're talking to them as well. So that's the premise behind it. So this is why I'm pulling out from you that your book has had far more impact since you've been talking about it, almost gossiping about it. Every time you speak to somebody, oh, you know, got a book out.
Yes, I do that a lot in Facebook Messenger as well. I make some sales through that, and also my chat bubble on my website. So yeah, I talk about it a lot. I'm very proud of it. You've got to be proud of what you're writing as well, because then you want to talk about it more.
Yes, yes. And one of the things I'm very keen on with the authors is that they speak from, including me, we speak from a place of scars, not wounds. You've already gone through it. You've worked your way through it. This is not therapy, standing on stage and talking about it. And by stage, I mean podcast, virtual stage, real life stage. You're coming at it from a position of, this is what I've learned from my crap. And once you've got that, you're no longer in the and re-traumatizing yourself when you're speaking about it. So that's the premise of this podcast. And this is what you're doing so beautifully. So tell us about that new book. Come on.
All right. So my new book's called Diary Confessions of a Hyperromantic Asexual, 78 Life Lessons to Ace Your Life.
Right.
So it's dual.
Okay. So we've got a diary. Yeah. And you've got the guide, if you will, the how-to on there as well.
78 life lessons it is. So it's a very unique and special book, and I'm going to be doing a series of these. So this is book 1.
Oh,
I'm all right. So basically, this is like a very novel. Love it. And so what the premise is that I write it in real time. So it's not talking about my past. It's not talking about my future, really. It's talking about what's happening in my present moment of my life. Obviously, because I've already written that one now, and I'm at the stages of like doing the final formatting part, then, you know, it has passed. But the whole point is, when I write it, it's like I write in a diary in real time. And so therefore, it's more relevant, it's more relative, and it's literally an extension of my channel. So I talk a lot about my asexual life in order to help others in theirs. And I do talk from my heart. I do cry in front of my audience. So I'm vulnerable. Like in the past, when I've had dates that have gone wrong, the guys lied to me, say I can live without sex, but they can't really, and stuff like this. Or, you know, I thought they liked me for my personality, then you find out they just want sex. You know, these type of things, they really hurt. So on my channel, when I go through that, I show the emotion and I
Yes.
cry in front of my audience. But then a few days later, I tell them how I overcame that. So they get both. They get the vulnerability, the real raw wounds, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
But a few days later, I show them how I overcame that. So
Yeah.
I'm literally a living, walking, talking inspiration to them, if you like.
Yes.
And the book is an extension of my channel because it's like more behind the scenes of my life. So when I've discussed things on my channel and what happens in certain scenarios, it then takes people behind the scenes of that. But the whole point of the book is I had a vision, like a waking vision,
Mm-hmm.
and it came true, but not in the way I thought it would. And
Ooh.
that, yes, it's
Oh,
mysterious.
come on. You can't just leave us dangling with that one. Come on, tell me more.
So it was actually a guy that I had a vision. So I said to God, because I'm very spiritual, I said, show me my soulmate.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to see him now. I'm fed up of waiting because I've been searching for my Indian soulmate for like 10 years. Well, since 2000, and it was 9 years last year because it was 2014. When I found out I'm asexual, that same year, I found out I'm spiritually, I know I'm meant to be with an Indian guy from a past life. And I know what he looks like, what job he does roughly, and that type of thing. So on my channel, I've been saying this for like years, and it's in my Asexual Perspectives book, all about this Indian guy from a past life. And so people can see all my history. So this particular time, I saw this waking vision. So I can, in my childhood, I can see things and they come true in some way.
Mm-hmm.
So I have some psychic abilities, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw this vision, I was awake when I saw it, which is not normal for me. And this guy was like in my flat, and I saw him and I saw his face, and I thought, oh, I assumed this guy was my soulmate because that's why I asked God to show me. And then I had a vision of this guy again on the cathedral, but he was like different ages. You know, once he was 22 and in my flat, and 24 in the cathedral close. And so a couple of weeks later, I met this Indian guy at the cinema, but he didn't look like the guy in my vision until he showed me an Instagram photograph from a couple of years ago. And so he would have been younger, and it was actually him. But he didn't actually turn out to be my soulmate after all. And it was all the heartache and pain I went through with that, and the life lessons I learned because of it.
Ooh.
And there's a couple of other Indian guys in there as well, thrown into the mix, that ended up not being the right ones for me. So there's 3 I talk about. And it's very interesting because I do this thing as well where I talk about what would happen with each of them if I had have had a happy ending with each of them. So it's bringing like fictional elements into reality, into real life. So it's got that element in there. Actually, now, book 2 that I'm writing, I've just met my real Indian soulmate. So yeah,
this is the definite one.
yes, I believe so. Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I'll be doing lots more books. But
That's book 2 coming up. But book 1 you're aiming to put out
14th of this month.
14th of April.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's what I'm planning for. That's when I'm going to publish it. So I know Amazon take a few hours to put it on there, but yeah, that's what I'm aiming for.
Well, you self-publish. Do you put it up on Amazon as a KDP? Do you put it on your website? How can we get hold of it is what I'm asking.
Oh yeah, it'll definitely be on Amazon.
Right.
So I've got the ebook cover that I've designed myself, but I pay someone to do the printed version of the cover.
Okay.
So with the new software I bought called Vellum, which is only available for Macs, it literally does the book for formatting for Kindle. It does it in print. It does it for Kobo. It does it for like all of them. So far with my other books, I've just published them on Amazon. But because I publish under Quirky Books, which is my own book publishing imprint, in the printed versions, I use my own ISBNs, which means that people can buy my books from anywhere. They can buy it from, so Asexual Perspectives, for example, you can get that off the Waterstones website, Barnes & Noble website, Blackwell's, Walmart. So really big things I've been able to do with my own book, you know.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah, so when it comes out, it'll be on Amazon for definite, and I'm
Yep.
gonna do like a special low price to begin with, just like the initial 24, maybe 48 hours, and then it'll be like, yeah, so people need to get in there when it's
Okay,
like
well, okay, audience. Now, what we're going to do, this episode is going up, probably it will be going up before the 14th. Are you taking pre-orders?
No, I'm
No.
not.
Okay, so there won't be
Oh, no.
the opportunity for pre-orders. However, as soon as we have the date and we
Yeah.
have the link, go
Yeah.
back and check the show notes.
Yeah.
Because we will update those for you.
Yeah, I'll give it to you straight away. Yeah, yeah.
So that is really exciting, really exciting.
Yeah, it's really good because all these life lessons as well are to do with like relationships, dating, and there's a lot of information in there to help people as well. Stuff to do with what parents should know as well.
Mhm.
I actually talk about Blue Talks because I was a speaker for Blue Talks at Oxford University last year.
Yep.
And I talk a bit about behind the scenes of that because I have an anxiety condition.
Right.
And I talk about the contrast between the speaking and the actual lead up to it when I was really anxiety induced. So I think it's because you know, so people can see behind the scenes what it was like for me. But I love doing
So that's in the diary section, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
all in the diary. So with the diary though, it's not entries every day. It's only when I felt that I had something I needed to say.
Yep.
But it's I really love the book. You know, it's going to be a series. You know, like I said, so people can see behind the scenes even more and keep the conversation going. But
Do you have a time frame for each book? So say a 6-month block or a year block. Do you have that in your mind as to what your...
Oh, I haven't told you about my book I've been working on for nearly 5 years as well.
Oh, okay, right. So
okay.
we take time to percolate. I get that. I get that.
So with my books, I don't put pressure on myself to finish them within a given time, which most people do, because I feel that I need them to be the best that I want them to be, and that everything works together in divine timing when it's meant to.
Yes. Yeah.
And that if
rather than having them coming out at specific times, I was thinking with your diary, was your thought process, I'm going to include a 6-month block of entries because you're doing a series of them. So
no, actually it was 3 months I did it. So I did it September to December.
Got it.
And then yeah, so it's taken 3 months to actually do. Right, but I was working on it before Christmas and then New Year, but I got very, very poorly and sick, so I had to stop it. And I also had a holiday booked as well. So I went on holiday, then got very, very sick. So that's like put me back a bit. And also I was a speaker at the Be and Become Summit last year before Christmas. But I thought that was going to be like just a bit of promotion, but I ended up having to promote it for like 3 weeks. So that stopped me doing my own book. So I learned the lesson that really I want to be like focusing more on my own books rather than being a speaker at summits, because it's taking me away from what I really need to do. I find it hard as a writer to get balance between promotion and marketing and actually writing. I think that's something I'm currently working on to try and get the balance, because I feel I should be doing more writing because I'm doing so much promotion, especially last year. I feel I should be doing more writing. So yeah, so it's like basically been 3 months writing and then 3 months editing and formatting in total. So within 6 months, but it's still the quickest book I've written for asexuals and most of my books. You know, it's still really quick compared. But yeah, my 5-year book, well, it'll be 5 years this June, is called Asexual Guide to Sex, which obviously is quite controversial. And it's actually
and on the surface looks contradictory.
Yeah, I know. It's really good. It's over 700 pages though, so it's like a reference book for life.
Right.
So it's I moved homes last year and I was meant to be editing. I started editing it last year, but then I joined Blue Talks in February, and then I was doing loads of stuff for that. And then in September, I thought you have to do the Diary Confessions book before the Asexual Guide to Sex you finish, because I'm guided by intuition at all times.
Yep.
So I do what my intuition tells me to do, not what is logical to some people.
Oh, yeah.
And in the Diary Confessions book, I'm talking about the Asexual Guide to Sex. So I'm kind of promoting it in that book, you see.
Nice.
So that people will buy it, because if I'm doing adverts, I can't do anything to do with sex. So I want to do a YouTube advert for my Diary Confessions book, which I've never done before in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm planning to do an actual YouTube advert for the book, which will
Ooh.
be so good. It'll be a good experiment. It'll be amazing to do. And that's something I intuitively feel I have to do. And also I want to get my books into physical bookstores this year. So I've big plans for my publishing company, you know, to get it into actual physical bricks and mortar stuff. And the speaking, as well as the writing, like, can go, and all the podcasts and everything should be enough, hopefully, social proof to allow me to go into bookstores, because when you're an independent publisher, they
Mm-hmm.
need a lot of proof that you've
Yes.
got an audience behind you. So I
Yes.
think it's very important to understand that if you've got the speaking aspect as well as the writing, and been on lots of podcasts, you know, because your words have power, and the more words
Ooh.
you have out into the world, the
Yes.
more you get around, the more people understand and hear you, the more
Mhm.
visibility you have, which will create greater, you know, like
Credibility.
marketing and credibility and authority. And therefore, you know, bricks and mortar stores like Waterstones are more like take me on. I'm not saying they're going to, because I know it's very difficult. It's become more and more harder for authors who are independent publishers to get into the bigger stores.
Mm.
You know,
And
and it's
also, there aren't as many bricks and mortar bookstores
yeah.
anymore, are there?
Yeah, we had 2 Waterstones in our city, and I believe one's shut down now. They've just got one. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
Well, I mean,
you know, it
I mean, you and I can remember Borders and other wonderful bookstores which have closed down over the years. Sorry,
yeah,
audience, this is a UK conversation. But yes, the Waterstones thing is a UK based one. But as you mentioned, there's Barnes and Noble in the US and Canada, and there are other bricks and mortar physical bookstores that are around. Yeah, absolutely.
and
I was
Barnes and
talking
Noble.
to Go on. I
Oh,
was talking to one of my authors, one of my guests, who's part of a program to speak on grocery stores. So he's on this book tour around all these grocery stores, and they sign, and he actually gets to meet people. And he's got an RV, so
wow,
he's literally touring the entire country as part of this program, and he's sold so many books because he literally gets to talk to people one on one,
that's really good.
which is very interesting. It's all about how you speak about what you do, isn't it? And that,
Yeah,
as you say, you've got the two in tandem. You have to, you've this compulsion to write,
yeah,
and you're speaking about your wonderful references, your experience, and that lived experience, which is so powerful to the audience who's going, am I the only one? Does that sound
yeah,
familiar? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Okay, that's really helpful to know. So this book, you're planning for it to be published on the 14th of April, and then the other one, the big tome reference one, that's coming out later in the year.
Yeah, I definitely want to get that out this year. Asexual Guide to Sex. I want to see how well Diary Confessions does first. You have to do about 3 months of promotion, but
Okay,
I will be working on the finishing the Asexual Guide to Sex format. And it's harder because it's a much more technical book,
yeah.
and because people's lives are at stake more with sex, because obviously it's very intimate. And
Mm-hmm.
I have to let your audience know I'm an asexual who's had sex in the past, in case you were wondering what experience I have. I was in heterosexual relationships from 6 years old. I've been in
Okay.
heterosexual relationships most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have had sex in the past, but not since 2011. I've been happily sex free since then. And I
Mm-hmm.
found out I'm asexual in 2014, but I am sexually experienced and I do understand. So my mission actually is to get asexuality recognized as a sexual orientation in its own right throughout the globe, so no asexual has to live in fear of ridicule ever again. And I believe I had the experience with heterosexuals specifically because I'm the person that's chosen to bring heterosexuals and asexuals together in understanding, and therefore bridge the gap, because I know both sides of it. I mean, my current partner now, my new love of my life, forever soulmate, he is heterosexual, actually, not asexual, but he accepts the fact that I don't want sex. So it's really good. And so it feels so great to have that guy, you know, supporting me. So
Mm-hmm.
there are some heterosexuals that can live without sex. The majority can't, but there are some.
Mm-hmm.
And because they value the person more than the sex, and they
Mm-hmm.
know that all the special qualities that person has, which
Mm-hmm.
is really, really important. So I'm a hyper kisser and a hyper romantic. So he gets all that. That's quite rare as well, which is why it's called Diary Confessions of a Hyper Romantic Asexual, because it's like constant drama in my life. Well, it was with the first book, because things happen a lot. So I get attracted to younger foreign guys, predominantly Indian, and you know, like I'm not now because I'm in a serious committed relationship. Before then, I would kiss guys in clubs and stuff like that, and so it's very interesting. In part of the diary book, the one that's coming out, there's a text message conversation, which I've actually done with formatted in text, because
Oh,
Vellum's really
love
good.
it.
Format it with, you know, text speak, and it shows like how a heterosexual, like he's talking like really nicely, and then all of a sudden he turns and makes a conversation sexual, and then it just gets like, oh my gosh, yeah, clearly you can't actually be without sex. Like, why are you even talking to me still? You know what I mean? So, but it's very insightful. People that get the life lessons, even if they're not asexual, they'll love the life lessons in it. So
Well,
I'm
that's it. I mean,
really,
as you say, you're coming to expand everyone's awareness.
yeah,
And so even those of us who are heterosexual, those of us who are homosexual, and all variations in between, it's a new definition, and one that you want to make a regular part of it. So you identify as asexual. Got it.
yeah. I mean, asexuality's been actually around for years, but the term hasn't been known. It wasn't until asexuality.org, I think it was around the year 2000 that it came online, asexuality.org, which is the starting point, like, for the online forum, you know, of asexuals. But you know, if you look in history, it's actually been around for years that people were together without sexual attraction, but it just wasn't known as anything back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
But with me specifically, I believe that I need to get through to heterosexuals. I need to speak the language, because I thought I was heterosexual for years. Actually mistook my high levels of arousal for sexual attraction, not knowing they're two different things. So many people think sexual attraction, sexual arousal, and sexual desire, and arousal in general, they think they're all the same, but they're not. So it's very interesting.
So
So
this
I
is
get,
where your wonderful reference book is going to really clearly define the
yeah,
differences involved.
yeah, the
Yeah, beautiful.
asexual guide to sex is really important. It shows all different aspects. It's suitable for LGBT plus people, heterosexuals, and it literally goes through all the different parts of sex. Like, I had to do research on the sex toys one, because I have never used a sex toy before. So a lot of it's my own experience, but not the sex toy bit. But I do have a friend who uses that, and so,
Okay.
yeah.
That's a really trusted friend when you can ask them about such intimate stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm very open on my channel though. I talk a lot about my past sex life. So I have to say that in terms of me as a person, me being a writer and a YouTuber has really changed my life. So when I was a kid, I was a suicidal, depressed mess. I didn't have any purpose in life. And I was very, very shy and introverted. And then throughout the years, obviously things changed. And when I actually entered the entrepreneur space in 2012, and I went to my first business seminar, and that's when I saw Tony Robbins live on stage. And that was the beginning of my self-love journey, actually, because I didn't love myself up until that point. And then in 2015, when I started my channel, I was really shy to talk about sex, because I'd only ever spoken about it before with a previous boyfriend, not even a girlfriend, no one. I was so shy about talking about sex. And I'm like, if you're going to help asexuals, which is a really good thing to do with words, you've got to understand that in order to, like, for me, in order to help asexuals, I needed to get out of my comfort zone and talk about that, because if you take your words with you to the grave, they are no use to anyone. So it's better to share them with the world and be useful for some people, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
You should never keep things to yourself, because I think, like, okay, I could be quiet about my past sex life and not say anything, but that doesn't help anyone, does it? It's like, it's, you know what I mean? And so I got out of my comfort zone, and I also used to be very not good in social situations. I couldn't be in groups. And then in 2015, January 2015, I started hosting asexual meetups, and so I don't have social anxiety anymore, but I used to. So,
Okay.
you know,
Well, I'm gonna stop you for a second. I'm going to ask you, because you are such a prolific writer and you talk pretty well about your subject and you are passionate about it, I'm going to ask you, can you give our audience some clues? How do you embody, how do you bring your written words to life when you speak? Is there something that you could give us a bit of a nugget of wisdom to try
out? So obviously I mentioned the fact that I actually read from my own book, which is really important, because if any of your listeners are quite scared and worried about things, about speaking, to read from your own book is like the easiest thing you can do, because you've already got it written down. You don't really have to think about it. I
Yep.
actually say I'm reading, though, to let the audience know, because obviously your eyes aren't focused on the audience, they're focused on the book. So you have to make them know, like, I'm reading this passage today. So I pick a topic, for example, from my Asexual Perspectives book, and then I'll read like 4 or 5 answers from it. Because, like, for example, like, what are the positives of being asexual? And so that I'll read like 5 different points of view from my book. And, you know, that opens a discussion then in chat. When I'm talking on my YouTube channel, I just pick one topic that I want to talk about and run with it. So I do ad-libbing. I actually find it easier to ad-lib than I do to script to talk in person and have a set time.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. So for you, it's you know your material, obviously.
Yeah, it's my real life.
Exactly. Hello, I'm not going to get this wrong, and nobody else knows whether I've got it wrong or not. So that's the issue for the scripting stuff, isn't it? Because if you are so clear about learning your script, if for some reason there's a blip in concentration and you miss a line or you miss a couple of words, then you've lost your cue for the next line, and it can throw you out dramatically. So for you, it's knowing your material, feeling into it, bringing it out, pretty much in a conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, so I share my own asexual life journey. So if something happens in my life, then I will think of a topic based on that. And so, for example, the relationship I'm currently in, I did actually get into a relationship quickly, which, you know, not many people recommend. So I did like the pros and cons of getting into a relationship quickly for my audience. So I used my personal experience to talk about my life currently. Then I also give the pros and cons of why it's good to do it or not good to do it, so the audience can decide for themselves. But I use my own life experience, but also add my knowledge and skills and that I've learned. So I give a balanced view, if you know what I mean. So
I mean, going back to the point that you made earlier on, the fact that you were very shy as a child.
Yeah.
Now, though, you feel as though if I'm hearing you right, you feel as though this passion is fueling you to get up and speak about what you are so passionate about, your soul mission. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so I feel I was born to help asexuals. I feel asexuality is very natural for me. So I feel that writing is my first soul and life purpose, followed very closely by asexuality. And it's something that from the beginning I felt like I intuitively knew about. I knew it because I am it. And I knew, looking back, even when I was 6 years old, that I was actually asexual way back then. I was born asexual, but didn't realize it. And so, you know, my asexuality has been a journey of discovery of myself, but it's grown me in confidence because I'm who I'm meant to be now, rather than who society dictated I should be. Basically, society sold me a lie. It's like, you know, everyone's heterosexual, which we know is not true, but you're conditioned to believe that that heterosexuality is desexuality to be, usually, and that you know, if you're not heterosexual, there's something like really weird and, you know, not in a good way. And it's like, it's not actually true that everyone's wanting or needing or having to have sex. You know, there is something else. And so yeah, I use my own experience to just bring about a conversation, but it's usually told in an educational way on my chat show. So I do a lot of lifestyle vlogs as well, which is just like my asexual life. Like I did like, what's in my asexual shopping today, you know?
So my point is that for you, what enables you to bring your words to life is knowing your life story and that passion for sharing what you're going through, what you're learning, and what you're teaching. Love it. Thank you very much. Because that, I mean, that's in and of itself is transferable. So audience, pick up from Sandra here that we're looking at what is it that you're passionate about. You've put that down on paper. Now let's talk about it. Whether it's a one-on-one conversation or whether, like Sandra, you've actually read from your work. And that can be a wonderful starting point. If you're not sure how you're going to go about it, snippets of your chapters, snippets of your work, and then bring them to life.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Sandra, before we finish, is there anything I've missed off? Is there anything else that I've forgotten?
I did write Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook.
Okay. So that was one of your other titles, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook, how to manage fibromyalgia to have less pain, more energy, and feel happier like a superhero rock star. This is an autobiographical account of how I manage my fibromyalgia.
Right.
And the things I do to, have less pain and be more happier. But it tells you how to decrease pain in 25 aspects of your life, most of which apply even if you don't have fibromyalgia. So it's like a personal development book in disguise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, audience, you can see from this conversation that you can have multiple different things that you're working on, and all of them can be passions of yours, and you bring that out as you speak about it. And we've got the authors here are primarily non-fiction.
Yeah,
so
I'm non-fiction.
Sharing those how-tos, those experiences, the education, the wisdom that we've learned as part of our life lessons. Thank you so much, Sandra. That's been really helpful when you've shared with us your From Page to Stage. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.